In today's Jolly in July Sewing Tuesday project, I'm going to show you how to make this delightful little quilt wall hanging. This is a project I designed, and I decided to go kind of Jolly in July colors with that sort of Florida, Miami Christmas with the pink and the teal. And I have set that on a white-ish background. I've used two fabrics for the background that are white and black, mostly white, just to add a little interest to the background. Of course, you can use whatever colors you want for the background and the baubles. You could go traditional with reds and greens. You could add in other colors as well, whatever fits your decor. Each bauble is made with two different colors, and then there is a fabric that is the top of the bauble, and that is the same for all the baubles. If you've been with my channel for a while, you may recognize a few of these fabrics. Some of these I used in the Hole in the Barn Door project from earlier this year. One of the fabrics is from my friend Victoria at Victoria Bee Designs. And the other is remnants from Under the Stormy Sea, a quilt tutorial I recently posted. So yes, this is a scrap-friendly quilt project. And if you need yardage, well, a fat quarter of each fabric is more than enough. The background may take a little bit more. 3/8 of a yard. The finished project is about 30 inches by 30 inches, so a yard for the backing is all you will need. This pattern is free to anyone who subscribes to my email list. If you are already a quilting subscriber, then you will have already received this pattern. And if you are a Patreon, well, I have a little something extra for you. All right, let's get going. Here are the fabrics that I have selected for my Miami Christmas quilt. I am choosing two background fabrics. Both are black and white prints. I have two pink fabrics and two turquoise fabrics. Let's get cutting. I have cut all of my pieces. Remember, there were 7 fabrics. 2 background fabrics plus the top of the ornament. That's a 3rd fabric there. And then there are 2 colorways. I did 2 shades of pink and 2 shades of turquoise for the baubles. From the background, I cut 4-inch squares, 3.5-inch squares, 2.5 by 3.5 inch rectangles, 1.5 by 3.5 inch rectangles. And then from the bauble fabric, I have 3.5 inch squares and also 4-inch squares. So the first thing that we want to do is to get all the pieces together so that ultimately they are 3.5 inch squares. So all these pieces are going to be used as is. Let's set those aside for just a moment. These rectangles are going to be paired together. So one of the top of the baubles is going to go actually to the bottom of the background square or background rectangle. So I'm just going to pair all of those up. Of course, it doesn't matter which side you sew it to as long as the 2 3.5 inch sides meet, because you'll be able to position it. None of the fabric is directional. So that will make a total of 5 new squares. And then, let me separate these out to background and bauble. We are going to be pairing up according to the instructions to make half square triangles. And we are going to get 2 sets of triangles out of each pairing. So I'm going to take a dark turquoise and a dark background. I'm just calling it a dark background. And I'm going to put those right sides together. I'm going to draw a line on the diagonal, and I'm going to draw 1/4 of an inch on each side of that. Now, I am using a tool called the Quick Quarter, which is going to allow me to line up this center dashed line. So I'm not going to actually draw that line, but I am going to draw on each side of the line, or each side of the little gadget here. And when I take it over to my sewing machine to sew, I am going to sew just to the inside of these lines that I have drawn. So I'm going to match these up according to the instructions. Some of these fabrics get matched to the darker background, and some of them will get matched to the lighter background. Let's go sew those. All right, we have sewn together the top of the bauble to a background rectangle. So these are now 3.5 inch in square. And then I have sewn a whole bunch of half square triangles. And I am going to go ahead, square these up. I like using my rotating mat. It just makes it a lot easier. And I am using a bias square up ruler. This I've had in my stash for a long time. There are many of them out on the market. I will leave some links in the description below for ones that are the same or comparable to this one. And I am just making sure that I'm keeping the diagonal on my seam line, and then I have it at the 3.5 inch mark, and just cut off any excess. And I'm just going to pile those up until I have all of them trimmed. I have all my pieces organized on this large design board, and I'm going to just lay out an entire row, and then the next row, and so forth and so on. So I did at the top row, which is all background squares, with the exception of this one piece that has the top of an ornament, and it basically goes dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light, etc. Now, as we get into the next row, we are going to have the start of an ornament, and that goes dark pink with the light background. Light pink. I know there's really not a whole lot of difference between those, but that's just how I have decided to name them. And then I want to make sure that this piece gets oriented in the correct direction. Then we have dark. And I'm just continuing to put the pieces according to the pattern. And this next to the last piece is going to be a light piece with the top part of a bauble. And we'll end with a dark. And I'm just going to keep laying out the quilt that way. And then I will sew each of the rows together. And here I have all my rows, which of course are way bigger than even fit into the camera or onto my design board, but I do have them laid out. Let me pull a few off here. So you can start to see how they go together. So I'm simply going to go and sew all 10 rows together. And here we have the finished quilt. Isn't that adorable? And you could of course do whatever colors you wanted. To get this pattern, you just need to sign up for my email list. This is the free pattern that I am offering from now through August for signing up for my email list. And if you are a Patreon, not only will you automatically get this pattern, but you will also learn how to make some alternative baubles that are a little fancier. That video will be coming out in August, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed making this project as much as I did. I can't wait to make some more with some other colors of fabric. I will be back again on Thursday with an embroidery tutorial. Until then, my friends, Bye!